If, like me, you're of a certain age, you will be familiar with the paper printed Haynes manuals, the sort of overhaul, repair, servicing, and maintenance manuals by the Haynes Company. Now, they were fantastic manuals. Whether you're an absolute novice DIYer, just changing the oil, checking your tyre pressures even, to somebody who needs to strip down an engine and regrind the crank, that book will give you everything you need to know to do that. Brilliant. So, as the world changes, we've gone online, we've gone digital. Haynes continue to do, for some vehicles, a fully spec'd kind of Haynes online manual, which is still great, but I'm not interested in that. What we're going to talk about today is the Haynes Autofix manual, which is a little bit different, and I have some issues with it. So, here it is, an Autofix manual, in their own words. With so many models on sale, it is impossible to strip down and rebuild enough cars to cover the market properly. Instead, Haynes Autofix is based on workshop data with added DIY tutorials full of general tips and techniques. General tips and techniques. Okay, interesting. The instructions, this is in bold, are no longer step by step and are best suited to confident home mechanics or professionals. So straight away, my biggest issue with this, and I'll show you why in a few moments, is general tips and techniques and confident home mechanics or professionals. Well, if I'm a confident home mechanic or professional, I don't need a general tip, I need specifics. So straight away, I don't know who this is aimed for, and we will find out how that's an issue in a little while. So there are some things I like, obviously. The vehicle I bought this for is a Terios, a Daihatsu Terios, because that car is a little bit unusual. There's not so many of them, so there's not too much information on the internet and on the usual places that you would find that. So got my father-in-law's car. It's got a couple of issues. Fuel gauge doesn't work, and it had a brake problem. And I needed some information, which I couldn't find, so I've bought this manual. When you delve into it, there are some really good bits, which I suspect are a little bit cheeky. Haynes are very, very keen on their website to point out that everything now is very electronic, very OBD, and they have a fault finder section in these Autofix catalogues, which they really pushing as a kind of a modern thing, and the reason that these manuals are better than the old ones. So let's have a look. Right. I've put in a fault code of P0442. It's telling me that it's this V1 canister purge solenoid. And it gives me a nice little wiring diagram. Hey, that's cool. And it even gives me a step-by-step how to fix it. Connect your multimeter here, and does it work, yes or no? And then we go to the next stage and look at that bit. And then we go to the next stage and look at that bit. So that's really good. Nice wiring diagrams. But this is the bit where I feel they're being a bit cheeky. If you dig into their wiring diagrams and electronics, they have a whole section called electronics, what you'll find is what is covered is the engine management system and the ABS, and not the bodywork, body systems, lights, and all the kind of stuff that was included in the old style manuals. So why is that cheeky? I'll tell you why that's a bit cheeky, because this car uses a Denso fuel injection system. There are only a handful of manufacturers, fuel injection system manufacturers, in the world. Big ones. Okay, there's lots of little companies, but you've got people like Denso, which this is. You've got Bosch, Delphi, Continental, and to a certain respect, GM Motors, who manufacture these systems, and they sell them as an off-the-shelf, bolt it on your car and off it goes solution. Engine management and ABS systems, which are the only systems that they have wiring diagrams and fault finding for. And I suspect, and I haven't checked because I've only bought one manual, but I suspect that so this is a Denso system. Here we go, Denso. I suspect, possibly, I'm being unfair, that if you bought another Autofix manual for another car that also has a Denso system, I'll bet you a fiver this is identical. I bet you they've bought, and fair enough, because information is relevant and they've had to research it and they will have had to pay for it to license it. They will have bought a Bosch injection system, they would have bought a Denso system, they would have bought GM, whatever. So that's cool. I don't have a problem with that as such, but if this manual has the same information as another manual with a Denso system, I'm paying twice for the same information. So that's a little bit cheeky, isn't it? Now, I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it's no coincidence they don't do the body electricals, which are specific to a vehicle, but they do the generic engine management system, which is not specific to a vehicle. I don't know, bit naughty. Useful, yes, but naughty. So the next thing, the next thing that we have. This car had a brake problem, as I mentioned. So here is the front brakes of a Daihatsu Terios. I'm not going to argue about this being front brakes because it is, but it's not from the Terios. This is not the system from the Terios. General tips and techniques. No longer step by step, best suited to confident home mechanics. Okay. So this is not actually correct. On the Terios, we do not have a screw here. We have two tapped M8 holes, and to remove the disc, you put two little M8 bolts in there, and you how do I put this? You jack off the disc. You jack them in, and it jacks off the disc. Yeah. So that's not quite right, but that's okay because I'm an experienced DIY stroke professional, so I can work that out myself. No problems. These pins are the wrong way around. These brake caliper sliding pins. The threaded portion should be here, and it should screw into the caliper. They've got it the wrong way around. Now, again, I'm a professional. I kind of know that. Well, I don't know that, but I understand that maybe they're the wrong way around. Okay, fine. So I can work that out myself. This is where it gets a bit silly. Here I've got two pads, and I've got the caliper carrier bracket and the pad bracket. Now, if I look at another manual, now this is the Terios. The pins are the right way around, they've got the threaded portion at the correct end. You will see that in addition to the pads, I've also got a shim, and I've got an anti-squeal plate, and another anti-squeal plate, and I've got four pad guide plates. Okay, so there's an additional 7 parts on here that are not shown on here. With this car, the shim is missing. That's not there. And also, one of the anti-squeal plates has migrated because also one of these guide plates is missing. So, the guide plates I can probably work out myself because if there's 4 of them and there's one missing, so there's only 3, well, kind of obviously there should be a 4th. So, one of those is missing, and I understand as an experienced garage mechanic professional, all right, fine. One of those is migrated, but it was there, so so we need one of these. This was not there. This has not been refitted by whoever did the brakes last. If I am working to this drawing here as a guide, it doesn't show that, so I am none the wiser that that is missing. So who is this aimed for? Again, because if I'm a professional, and I am familiar enough with Terios brakes to know that I need this, then I don't need that. I don't need the general arrangement because I know enough to know there's a bit missing. So the drawing is wrong. And I understand what Haynes are saying, kind of, in that these are general guides. So, oh man, and here is a general guide. Well, that's not the car that I've got. It's a general guide. So it would make sense to me as a consumer, and probably not to Haynes as a business, to not sell this Autofix range of books because I'm a bit disappointed in it. The reason I bought it was because I needed some technical information on the brakes. And in fact, some of that, actually, good point, some of it wasn't there. So, just going back to these brakes very quickly. Torque figures. I did need the torque figures. So, score. Well done. I've got the torque figures. Brilliant. I did need that. Something else I needed, and I didn't know I needed. Right, specifications for the brakes. Here we go, front brake discs. We've got the ventilated ones here, front. So disc thickness, minimum. Well, that's good, because I now have a data point of this disc is too worn, needs to be replaced. Cool. Disc went out, yeah, lovely. Pad thickness, yeah, lovely. Does it mention anywhere there diameter of the discs? Give you a clue. No, it doesn't. Are there two sizes of discs you can buy for a Terios? Give you a clue. There are. 273mm and 287mm. Did I buy the wrong ones? Yes, I did. Oh, man. So, the one bit of information I did need... No, okay, I needed torque specs. Got that. But the other thing is not there. Ah, but we're a general guide. No, I'm not buying it. It would make sense, going back, to me as a consumer, but not necessarily to them as a business, to maybe sell, instead of having all this generic stuff about this is what brakes kind of look like, scrap that, because it's not the same as on the Terios. Let's just have specs. Let's have a list of torque figures for everything on the car, break it down into sections, however you want to do it, and a list of specifications, which would include your front brake disc diameter, for example. And then I could buy a Denso injection system fault finding manual, or a Bosch injection system fault finding manual, and then a Daihatsu Terios 2007 1.5 litre four-wheel drive automatic specifications sheet. Call it a fiver or something, because this manual was £26, which is about the same price as a full manual. And the full manuals, of course, are based on a full strip down and rebuild. It's a different thing. So my advice would be, if you can, try and get the information from the internet for your car before buying the Haynes Autofix. The Terios, it's difficult. I mean, I did manage to find manualslib.com. It's a great resource. I did manage to find this for the Terios. The problem is I could only find the bit for the caliper. I couldn't find the bit for the discs. So that was kind of and the caliper bracket carrier thing. So that's why I bought the Haynes manual. So the Haynes manual has provided me with some more information, but I've had to pay £26 versus a lot of stuff free on the internet. So I think there's a better way of doing it, Haynes. And I would, as a consumer, my advice to you would be, if you can, avoid spending the money, because 90% of the information is probably available out there already. Shame, Haynes. It's a shame, because traditionally you've been very, very good, and the conventional manuals, even the online versions, are also excellent. But the Autofix system of new manuals is too generic, and you're covering yourself by saying it's aimed at professionals, but then not including detailed information that a professional would want. A professional doesn't need to know what a brake disc and pad arrangement looks like. They do need to know the diameter of the specific disc for that specific vehicle, and they do need to know that there are 3 shims and not 2. So, hit and miss. Other options.